Ikhlas, the intention is the why. What is it? You know, the why is the motivating factor. Imam Ghazali says when he was asked about intention, قال هو دافع العمل. Yani, what is it that is motivating you to do what you do?
Some people might be money.
Absolutely. Some people might be praise, to be noticed, because they're, fond of themselves. They have ujub, for example. There's so many reasons that a person can do an act, but Allah only accepts that act that is done purely for sake. Look at this. Rasulullah ﷺ entered upon the Sahaba and they were talking about the greatest fitna of all, the Masih ad-Dajjal. دخل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم على الصحابة وهم يتذاكرون المسيح الدجال فقال ألا أنبئكم بما هو أخوف عليكم عندي من الدجال قالوا بلى يا رسول الله قال الشرك الخفي أن يقوم الرجل يصلي فيزين صلاته لما يرى من نظر رجل. Such a beautiful hadith where Rasulullah enters into the Sahaba and they're discussing the Antichrist, the Masih ad-Dajjal. And Rasulullah tells them, do you know, I'd like to tell you about something that I'm even more concerned about for you than the Antichrist, the Masih ad-Dajjal. The Sahaba said, what is that, Ya Rasulullah? He said the invisible shirk, the subtle shirk. And then he gives an example of what that means. That a man gets up and ornaments his salah. He improves it because he notices someone looking at him doing it. Meaning he's doing it to impress others. There's this joke where someone enters into someone with a beautiful voice and he's reciting the Quran in salah. He's praying, he's in salah, and he's reciting and he has a nice voice. So the guy all of a sudden enters. He wasn't in the room and he listens and he's impressed with his voice. So he says, MashaAllah, what a beautiful voice. And so the guy praying hears him. So all of a sudden he looks at him, he says, Usayim kaman. And I'm also fasting. So why are you doing what you're doing?
So
why are you trying to prove it?
You're doing everything in this life for not the right intentions. You're doing it for people. You're doing it so people can say, wow, he's absolutely amazing. He's a nice guy. He's a nice voice, whatever it is. So you lose the ajr for it.
Absolutely.
Automatically, it's between you and Allah. But Usama, I think, even if you're mukhlis, between you and Allah, whatever you do, you could ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Absolutely.
And it's easy for a mukhlis guy to know why he's doing this.
If he's honest with himself.
If he's honest
with himself.
Can a human be not honest with himself at least? You could lie to people.
Some people, they lie so much, they begin to believe their own lies. It can happen, but you're right. Overall, a person with the right tools and knowledge can discover whether they're doing the act sincerely or not. By asking that question. Our mashayikh used to teach us before tasheeh al-niyyah, rectifying your intention, before you do any act, ask yourself, why am I doing? What is motivating me to say or do what I'm about to do? And then if it's off, take a moment to fix it, to remind yourself, why do I care what they think?
Wallahi.
People's opinions will change. They'll never remain the same. You know, رضا الناس غاية لا تدرك ورضا الله غاية لا تترك. You'll never be able to please people, ever. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so easy to please if you have the right intention in the act.
When we went to Gaza, at the beginning, man, I knew people would appreciate somebody going into Gaza at this hard time. Wallahi, Usama, wallah, deeply inside, I used to say, Ya Rab, Ya Rab, take out the nice words from people towards me. I don't want to hear people telling me anything nice.
Subhanallah.
I don't want to hear it. Because I wanted the amal to be for Allah. Wallahi al-azim.
That's pure.
And it's so hard sometimes to keep it when you're hearing too many good things around you. Man, thanks, mashallah, annak, mashallah, you're amazing. Wow, how did you go? You went to death with your walking on your feet. You'd be like, yeah, man, I went to death walking on my feet. But deeply inside me, Wallahi al-azim, I was say, Ya Rab, I don't need any extra publicity. I know some publicity is going to happen, but I don't want extra. Wherever I see there's like interviews or something, wallahi, I would just step on a side. I don't want to do it for that case, even if sometimes it's good. Your voice for people when you're there. I'm trying to take out the voice of people, the voice of what's happening on Gaza.
Subhanallah. And I think it's also because you feel like when you were in Gaza, at any time you felt...
You would lose it. Usama, you would lose it. If you're a mukhlis in amal, how easy you would lose this ikhlas if something got in the way of it. Some pride that you're in a place where not everybody can be at. Even in anything you're doing, man.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so easy to lose ikhlas. So easy.
Subhanallah. That's why our mashayikh used to tell us, check your intention before and also in the middle of the act. So you have to keep checking it. And then they said at the end of the act, make istighfar. And they used to also say, Subhanallah, the sign that a amal is pure and accepted by Allah is that you forget about it. Because if you're constantly thinking about it, there's too much nafs and ego involved. That's a good way to check. But mashallah, I think you put it beautifully, especially with Gaza and content creators. So many people with social media. SubhanAllah, one of the things that attracted me to your channel initially was all the amazing posts and videos that you were doing on Gaza. But a lot of people, you have to ask your question, would you still post about Gaza if nobody was going to notice? Would you still post if you weren't gonna gain the approval of people? Those are two ways to check. Did you used to check your intention every time you do a post?
Because when it was trendy, everybody was talking about it, the views were super high. When it went down, the views went down. I stayed doing them.
That's a sign of sincerity.
I seek so much, alhamdulillah, pleasure when I see that even if it's getting not the views that anybody would seek for, if you're doing it for the views, you'll stop.
But that's the sign that you were sincere, Diya.
Alhamdulillah, man.
Because the sign of sincerity is that you're consistent. When something's trending, everybody wants to talk about it.
Yes.
Today, this is what's, the top news. Okay, so let me say something about it. But what if it wasn't? Or what if it wasn't trending? If you notice, I don't know if you did, there are a lot of people in the beginning of what was happening with Gaza, a lot of people were donating very generously. But then after, the months passed by, we saw, it's not that they weren't
doing lifestyle. That's their lifestyle. It's not.
It's not. But you found that people that were truly sincere, whether Gaza was in the news or not, and it was on the news every day, they were consistent with posting about it because they were doing it for an audience of one. Allah's always watching. Even if it doesn't make it on the news, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. And what is He watching? He's not watching your form. He's looking into your heart and your intention.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's key to, subhanAllah, rectify it. The first people on the Day of Judgment, do you know who the first people to be burned in Jahannam are?
I think I know. Munafiqun.
Most people think maybe the non-believers or maybe Fir'aun or the truly oppressive on earth during their time, the worst zalimeen, but actually it's from amongst the Muslims. But the munafiqeen of the Muslims, with who? Who? The shaheed and the scholar and the one that used to donate, give charity. But there's a catch. Allah would bring him. He says, why did you fight in my path? And he says, I fought, for your sake, Ya Allah. He says, كذبت. He says, you fought لكي يقال شجاع وقد قيل فخذوه إلى النار. He says, you fought so that they could call you courageous, and you got what you wanted in dunya. They called you courageous, but Allah only accepts those acts that are purely for Him. And he ends up in Jahannam. The scholar, why did you learn your knowledge? So that they can call you a scholar, eh? And they did. Take him into Jahannam. The one that was giving charity, why? Oh, Ya Allah, for your sake, no. So they can call you Kareem and generous. You are interested in people noticing you. Take him into Jahannam. So it's the most important. In fact, tazkiyah is the science of ikhlas. To be genuinely sincere and true to yourself, sadiq, true with yourself, in checking every single act that you do, in every single moment, during the act as well, and then at the end of every act, what did we say?
Astaghfirullah.
Istighfar for the sake of Allah. This is very important because the nafs daiman has a haz, it has a share. We're weak, we're human beings, but as long as we feel guilty and feel bad and practice this, inshallah, Allah will
lack of ikhlas, guys, could drag you into hellfire easily.
Yes, absolutely. And riyah is rooted in one's desire to impress others. That's the source of it. Because of ujb, you're very fond of yourself, because of the love of praise. You like to be praised by others. You're like, how was that? Wallahi kif kanat has-salah. How was that prayer? How was that? What are you doing it for? So you always want to make that check. Otherwise, you're wasting valuable time.
Even Usama, if you're doing something to show people, you did something so other people could be encouraged to do the same thing you're doing. I think if you did this, but you had the intentions and you had the ikhlas with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think you're good, man. I think you're on the right side.
You're talking about, say, for example, you're at a fundraiser.
Yes.
And there are people, you're there and you're encouraging people to donate for the sake of Allah. Now I'm sitting and I'm listening to you, and I know that people are influenced by me. For example, maybe I'm an influencer, maybe people look up to me. And I know that if I were to get up in front of everybody and say, okay, I'm going to give $10,000 for this cause, that it will encourage others to get up and give. Then you do it. But it's being done
You
for
get double the ajr. You'll get the ajr because the ikhlas with Allah.
Beautiful.
And you'll get the ajr that you want other people to.
Exactly.
And it's just one thing between you and Allah. Nobody would know. Nobody would witness it. Only you and Allah.
It's 2x.
Man,
yeah,
that's double the ajr, man.
It is. But there are things that you have to kind of, what's the remedy of a bad intention?
Yes, tell me.
What's the medicine for it? It's very important.
What is it?
So you take the Qul Huwa Allahu Ahad. It's called Surah what?
Al-Ikhlas.
Al-Ikhlas. That means what? Sincerity.
Yes.
Sincerity. Give me one verse in Surah Al-Ikhlas that talks about Ikhlas, sincerity.
ما في. There isn't any.
What is it all talking about?
قل هو الله أحد.
Tawheed.
Yes, Allahu Samad.
Yes. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he was asked about Iman, he equated it with Ikhlas. What is the kalima called? One of the names of the kalima, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, it's called Kalimatul Ikhlas. Why? Because when your Iman of Tawheed increases, and you see everything, you decoded the messengers and the situations, and you see the one behind the many. Because look, everything in this world is a curtain, and behind it is Allah doing the work. You know, there was this story, two best friends, and they're always hanging out with each other. Best friends. One of them, he's super smart. The other, he's a little slow. He's not that smart. The smart one gets married, mashallah. He gets married, and he invites his not so intelligent friend over for food. So the guy goes and he's sitting and he notices something he didn't notice before. There was a curtain. And he's sitting there, all of a sudden he smells mahshi wara inab. He smells, you know, mansaf.
Your stomach got hungry.
I think so, yeah. We've been recording for quite some time. Yeah, absolutely. He begins to smell all these amazing dishes. And then he looks. He's not that smart, eh? And then he looks and all of a sudden the dish of mansaf comes out. And he's like, where did that come from? He's shocked. He goes to him. He said, where did you get that magic curtain? He says, what do you mean? He said, just tell me. He goes to the store downstairs. He goes, Salaam alaikum. He said, where are you going? The food. He goes, later. He rushes downstairs to the store. He finds the exact same curtain. He buys it. He goes home. He puts up the curtain. He invites all his friends over for
doesn't
food.
come out.
Now when they all come and they're sitting down, they're waiting. It's like, they can't smell anything. They said, what's going on? He said, no, just wait. This is a magic curtain. You know so-and-so? They're like, yes. When I was at his house, all of a sudden this curtain begins to produce all these dishes. And he's like, man, what are you talking about, bro? The guy just got married, and this was a hijab for his wife, and his wife was behind the curtains preparing the food and pushing it through. Everything in this world is a curtain, and behind it is the yadullah, taf'al. Allah is the one doing everything, but veiling and camouflaging His activity through the asbab. When you become realized in this, and your iman of tawheed is pure, you see everything coming from Allah. So why would you do anything for anyone else's sake? That is the true remedy of what? Of riya, trying to impress others.
So basically, everybody watching right now, Usama, his intentions, his ikhlas is gonna go up by putting the right intentions with the work he's doing, with no matter what the thing he was doing was, right?
Absolutely. And you have to reflect on a few things.
Like?
Reflect on the temporary nature of people's opinions of you. You're so worried about what people are thinking about you, but guess what? They're only thinking about themselves. You're sitting there like, what is he gonna think? But just like you're worried about yourself, he's worried about himself. So it's one of the tricks of shaitan, so don't get caught up in that cycle.